It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not. Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
It's been over a decade since Handsome Jack's debut, and to this day, he's remembered as one of gaming's greatest villains. In preparation for Borderlands 4's release and for a much bigger Handsome Jack video later this year, I wanted to revisit the complex roots of this series' greatest anti-hero. From his tragic origins growing up within an abusive household with his grandmother, to the life-altering moment where his daughter's pain and rage manifested into a hail of bullets killing his wife and creating the foundation of Jack's lifelong mission of wiping out any trace of bandits out of the universe. This isn't the story of his downfall, or really the peak of his power. Not quite yet. This is the story of John, and how the foundation was set for him to become Handsome Jack. The origins of a relatively low-level Hyperion programmer who once found happiness and fulfillment through a loving household that had it all ripped away, fueling his drive to seize the seat of power as the president of Hyperion, and transforming a mega-corporation into an extension of one person's ego and vision of what a civilized world should be.
I love you, Angel.
I love you too, Dad.
The beginning of Jack's story is a tragedy, one that would cast a long shadow over the rest of his life. It begins on his homeworld of Tantalus. To this day, we've never actually seen Tantalus within the Borderlands universe, and that absence only deepens its mystery. We don't know its climate, its landscapes, or the kind of life that once thrived there. What we do know, however, is enough to piece together an idea of what the planet had endured and how that may directly tie into Handsome Jack's origins. Like so many other worlds consumed by corporate expansion, Tantalus was no different. According to a personal log from Axton, mercenaries once managed to hold back an Atlas armada during an incursion on the planet. And the Atlas Corporation itself wasn't just another business. It was a sprawling, interplanetary giant. They built everything from ships and star drives to small arms, and they backed it all with their own private military, known as the Crimson Lance. The Crimson Lance themselves was more than just a security unit. They were, in every sense of the word, a professional army. They were well-trained, well-equipped, and fanatically loyal to Atlas's interests. Their presence on Tantalus suggested more than just a corporate policing. It speaks to Atlas's obsession with expansion, its relentless pursuit of alien technology as a means to maintain dominance over rival corporations. The original Borderlands leaves the specifics unclear, but the implication is haunting. Tantalus was simply another world primed to be devoured by Atlas's hunger. Whether if Jack directly witnessed the conflict on Tantalus remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that Atlas's immense power had once been checked by only a handful of mercenaries, an image that could have easily left a mark on a boy growing up in a shadow of war. If Jack did see it firsthand, then it may well have been the seed that would later grow into the hero complex, the notion that even the smallest force with enough will could defy giants. At home, though, Jack's life was far from heroic. His father died when he was still young, perhaps so young that he retained no real memories of his father. His mother, on the other hand, unwilling or unable to raise him, abandoned Jack to the care of his grandmother. She was cruel, abusive, and seemed to take pleasure in tormenting her grandson. Within that environment, it isn't difficult to imagine Jack drawing parallels between his own life and the battles being fought beyond his front door. The weak defying the strong, the powerless clawing back control where they could, however they could. Of course, those connections existed only in Jack's imagination. On Tantalus, the Crimson Lance and the mercenaries clashed bitterly, their defiance measured in blood and sacrifice. Jack's own defiance, however, would take a different shape. It didn't come through direct confrontation, but through escape. He immersed himself in programming and coding. It would have been a world where he could impose logic, create order, and build something greater than the suffocating life his grandmother had forced upon him. Each line of code would, in essence, become more than just a distraction, but a promise. A way off Tantalus, a path toward ambitions far larger than the walls of the home that sought to crush him. Years later, when Jack reached the height of his power as head of Hyperion, those memories of his grandmother still lingered. He would even send the Vault Hunters he once tried to kill to check in on her in the Iridium Blight where he had a house constructed for her. It's a mission that's framed as if it was born out of concern, but in reality, he had already paid bandits to kill his grandma. He was just utilizing the Vault Hunters to eliminate them so he wouldn't have to pay them. It was a perfect reflection of how Jack thought. Use those he considered savages, pit them against each other, and then discard them when they no longer served his purpose. But there's another thing worth pointing out within this mission, and that's the personal item tied to his grandma. She didn't leave behind a family keepsake, any type of heirloom or anything that was valuable or meaningful in any kind of way. What she left behind was a buzz axe, the crude tool that came to symbolize the savagery Jack would one day swear to wipe out of the universe. The implication is incredible. His grandmother may well have been a bandit herself, or at the very least used the same brutal tools associated with them as a way to discipline Jack. Hence, what began as pain in his childhood could have grown into a full-blown vendetta long before anyone actually realized it. A lifelong obsession to erase the very savagery that had once tormented him in the earliest of years. With this understanding alone, it would be easy to explain how Jack would grow into the power-hungry, egotistical figure we'd later come to know. He grew up in a house devoid of any kind of love, affection, or personal connection, disassociating and separating himself from others who were no longer people but objects to exploit while utilizing humor as a coping mechanism. That seems like a sound enough explanation, but even then it's not that simple. Because despite his rough upbringing, lacking any true emotional bonds, save perhaps his work, and the dog his grandmother cruelly drowned as apparent punishment for not doing his bed, Jack was still capable of love. Against all odds, he managed to get married and have a daughter. By all accounts, this was the period where Jack even seemed most genuine, perhaps even happiest. At home, he had a wife he clearly loved and a daughter he openly adored. Arguably, it was the one stage of his life where he found true fulfillment that wasn't achieved through ambition, conquest, or some grand vision of changing the world, but through the quiet completeness of having a family. Now, it's unclear of what came first, whether if that was Jack securing a low-level position at Hyperion as a programmer before marrying, or if he built his family first and only later stepped into the corporate machine. Either way, this chapter of his life presents an interesting contrast, because professionally, his career at this time was unremarkable. He wasn't celebrated, nor did his superiors see much promise within him. Yet within the comfort of his own home, he had something far greater than professional acclaim. He was loved, he was content, and he was quietly proud. And perhaps had things remained that way, had his family endured, Jack's story might have been entirely different. Without the shattering loss that followed, he might have been satisfied with a modest career, a modest life, never needing to chase power or recognition. But alas, that wasn't the path he was given, and unforeseen events would soon strike, tearing apart everything he valued, and forever altering the course of his life.
Captain Bear, who is a bear? He is a bear, Captain Bear.
Hey, Angel. And who's this guy?
Captain Bear, he eats crime.
Whoa, he must be eating a lot with that big belly, huh? Hey, Angel, darling, what's that on your arm? Did you do that?
Blue. I don't know where it came from. Do you think it's pretty?
Yeah, sweetheart, it's real pretty. Hey, honey, can you get in here for a minute?
Jack's daughter Angel had inherited the signs of something rare, the markings of a siren. Later, her memories would be found imprinted onto objects of her childhood, each one symbolizing pieces of her pain, reflections of how her father treated her, and the ways he would one day utilize her power for his own personal gain. But in those early years, Jack had little to no understanding of what a siren truly was, or how dangerous it was for his daughter to be recognized as one. Sirens were the rarest beings in the galaxy. Only 6 could exist at any given time, and the moment Angel's tattoos appeared, the family was thrust into a risk Jack couldn't yet comprehend, or even see coming. As any concerned father would, his first course of action was to search for answers to explain his daughter's sudden change in appearance. This would compel him to arrange for her to see a doctor. While waiting within the clinic, Jack would come to grow irritated with the vending machine that refused to work. He'd hit it, cursed at it, and would begin to move on as it was no big deal. And so Angel stepped in. Eager to help her father, she reached out and, for the first time, used her phase-shifting ability to manipulate the machine to work. Considering she was still a young child, far too young to understand the world around her, let alone the newfound gift, which is something she would describe simply as talking to machines, the moment would come to leave Jack speechless. It was Jack's first real encounter with what a siren can do. Even as a child, Angel had barely any idea of the power she wielded. But for Jack, any sense of wonder would quickly be replaced with fear. Fear that would become real the moment a bandit named Grogmouth laid his eyes on his daughter. The immediately recognizable tattoos of a siren said everything he needed to know. Angel was valuable, a commodity to be seized and sold off for a quick yet massive payday. Grogmouth would manage to get his hands on Angel, triggering an intense showdown between him and Jack.
Mommy, Daddy, help!
Look, you filthy bandit. Just give us back our daughter, okay?
Are you kidding? She's a freaking siren. I'm gonna be a trillionaire. You and your wife get out of here before I stick my turrets on you. Forget the kid. Go make another one.
Jack's scowl said everything. Under his breath, he cursed Grogmouth as a filthy bandit, a savage unworthy of mercy. Moments like this only added to the reason Jack saw no redeemable qualities within them. Reasons that would harden his view of bandits for the rest of his life in this very moment. Because his daughter was in Grogmouth's grip. And he had no concern for her father's plea, no regard for Angel or anything more than profit. But the way this encounter would end was far worse than either of them could have ever expected. In an uncontrolled emotional outburst, Angel would seize control of Grogmouth's turrets. Her fear and anger would manifest into live gunfire. While Grogmouth appeared to be the intended target of her rage, successfully killing him, it would be a tragic yet unexpected cost. Within that chaos, Angel would unfortunately kill her mother too.
No, I want to go home!
Shut up, kid, or I'll... Hey, what the...
I want to go home!
Get down! No! No! Angel, what did you do? What did you do?
In a way, this was the moment Jack lost both his wife and his daughter. His wife was killed, and somewhere deep inside, he would forever blame Angel for it. Their relationship was altered in an instant, strained forever by grief and guilt that neither of them could escape. In fact, death, grief, revenge, and hatred would become inseparable within Jack's mind, twisting together into something much larger and much more consuming than just mourning. This would also mark the turning point of his purpose within his life. He would come to weaponize Angel's gift, and he would dedicate himself to wiping every bandit in the galaxy off the face of existence, beginning with the planet of Pandora.
There are 4 treasure hunters who arrived on a shuttle several hours ago.
Great. Say this to him. Don't be alarmed. I need you to stay calm and don't let on that anyone is talking to you. Start making your way off the bus.
Jack's move after his wife's killing, and Angel's unwilling role within it, wasn't simple. It was never just grief, or anger, or protection. It was all of them tied together, until he couldn't separate where one ended and the other began. He couldn't look at Angel without remembering what had happened, without feeling that jagged wound, and yet he couldn't imagine losing her either. Grogmouth's attempt had already burned the truth into his mind, that a siren was dangerous not only because of what they could do, but because of what others would do to claim them. The moment Angel had been spotted, Jack realized she was never going to be safe. Not within this world as it was. Not while people knew what she was. He still loved her, of that he never doubted, but his love was infected by fear. It became controlling, possessive, desperate. He wanted Angel alive, he wanted her untouchable, and he wanted the freedom to pursue his vision of saving the world without always looking over his shoulder for the next bandit, the next corporation, the next power that would come for her. He told himself he was protecting his daughter. He told himself he was keeping her safe, but deep down he knew there was a punishment within it too, a way of locking away the part of his grief he couldn't bear to face. His solution was as brilliant as it was cruel. He designed a chair, built into Hyperion's vast network, tied directly into a lattice of satellites that spanned entire systems. Thanks to Angel's siren abilities, her position within that chair was more than just the usual link of data processing and transferring signals. It quite literally became the reflexes of a self-aware person who had the ability to manipulate technology at the slightest whim. Within the same position, she was granted the passive ability to simultaneously launch surveillance and collect data across massive star clusters. As long as Hyperion had some sort of footprint within that universe or cluster of planets, so too did Angel, and hence Jack. To outsiders, it looked like limitless reach. To Jack, it meant security, but for Angel, it was something else entirely. The chair wasn't protection, it wasn't empowerment, it was confinement. It stripped her of choice and tied her life directly to Hyperion's machinery, reducing her to a function, a tool sharpened by her father's crusade. Jack, however, would wrap it in careful words. Told her it was the only way to keep her safe, that by helping him, she was helping the galaxy, that she was essential to everything he was trying to build, and she wanted to believe him because, well, he was her father.
Daddy, please, let me out!
No can do, my sweet little angel. You're in that chair for your own good, okay?
You're such an asshole!
Language? Look, sweetheart, I can't let you out because of what you did to your mother, okay? I just couldn't bear it if something else happened to you.
I didn't mean to.
Shh, I know, darling, and that's why you need to stay in that chair. But I got you something. That chair is connected to the entire Hyperion network. Now you can see through every satellite we own around every planet in the sky. You've got the best view in the whole universe from that chair. We're gonna work together. You and me, kiddo. Sound good?
Yeah, okay.
I love you, Angel.
I love you too, Dad.
But underneath every promise, every justification was the truth. Angel wasn't free. She was trapped, locked into a prison built out of wires and fear, all in the name of a love too broken to let go. Under Jack's orders, Angel would spend years driving Hyperion's expansion. When dawn would come to abandon Pandora, Jack saw the chance to strike. He shifted focus to wrestle control of the planet from Atlas, and Angel became the lever to make all of that possible. He would send Hyperion's satellite marked 4N631, or Angel, into the orbit of Pandora. This would be the way that she can keep a constant bird's eye view over the entire planet. From here, she would come to reach out to 4 Vault Hunters new to Pandora, guiding them through the EchoNet. The EchoNet was the perfect stage for Jack's design. Originally built by Dahl, it was a simple wireless communications grid meant for Pandora's colonists, soldiers, and scavengers, accessible through basic HUDs, claptrap units, and maintained through fragile satellite uplinks buried in Crimson Lance facilities. On the surface, it was nothing more than a convenience. It was simply meant for mission briefings, updates, transmissions flickering across small personal screens. But in Angel's hands, with her power fused to Hyperion's reach, it became something much more powerful. She could bend the network to her will, extend her awareness across the entire planet, and watch everything unfold in real time. During the events of Borderlands 1, what looked like guidance from her was really a form of surveillance. Every word Angel spoke to them was fed through the network Jack had bound her to. She would appear to be an ally, but in truth she was watching them, pushing them, and steering them exactly towards where Jack wanted. And perhaps the story of Borderlands 1 could be credited as Jack's greatest manipulation, using his daughter's voice, her sincerity, and even her regret as the perfect disguise, as Angel truly did feel remorse for lying. That trait was real, and in the time she would confess that she didn't like lying to the Vault Hunters, a sentiment that would appear to be repeated in Borderlands 2. But it's that precise compassion that Jack utilized into a weapon, so that every ounce of sorrow within Angel's words only made the Vault Hunters trust her more. They believed she guided them out of concern when in reality she was steering them step by step toward the vault, Jack's prize, as it was filled with 2 things Jack would come to utilize to great effects: the Destroyer and the valuable resource of Iridium within it. In hindsight, the story of the planet's first Vault Hunters could just as easily be credited to Jack as to their own actions, because he was the unseen hand guiding their journey, bending their choices to serve his goal. What played out as adventure and discovery on their end was, in truth, the quiet beginning of Hyperion's rise. And that's what makes it all the more striking. For all of his cunning and careful manipulation, Jack was still considered unremarkable by those above him. Borderlands 2 would reveal that when Jack dispatched the Angel satellite to Pandora, it wasn't with any authority. It was a complete unsanctioned misuse of Hyperion's assets. His ambition earned him nothing but scorn from Harold Tassiter, the then president of the company at the time, who dressed him down and humiliated him.
Great. Say this to him. Don't be alarmed. I need you to stay calm and don't let on that anyone is talking to you. Start making your way off the bus.
The bus is still moving, sir.
Shut up. Tell them.
John, why have you dispatched one of our satellites to Pandora? What are you doing?
Sir, the energy readings my instruments at home are getting from Pandora are...
Get out of there at once, you hideous little code monkey, and shut off that satellite.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Tassiter. It won't happen again, sir.
To Hyperion's leadership, Jack was no visionary, just a reckless subordinate overstepping his place. Later, Tassiter would grudgingly admit that Jack had been right about Pandora, that his instincts about the planet's value weren't misguided. But even in that admission, he offered nothing more than a reluctant acknowledgement, making it clear he still regarded Jack as a pathetic subordinate, a wretch unworthy of respect.
Now, Mr. Tassiter, blackmail. Such a dirty little word, isn't it? Actually, no, I come to think of it, it's not a dirty word at all. It's kind of awesome. Blackmail. Say it with me. Back.
Oh, go to hell, John. Just because you got lucky with your Pandora hunch doesn't mean...
Because I was right, is what you mean. And call me Jack, idiot.
You may have been able to scare the other directors into giving up their shares, but I know you. I know that beneath that ridiculous mask, you're still a hideous, pathetic little nobody.
Mr. Tassiter, maybe you can settle up something for me. Do you know the difference between choking and strangulation?
By this time, however, Jack was no longer the unremarkable John his peers had dismissed him as. During the moment of this conversation with Tassiter, Jack had already been scarred, marked by the disfigurement Lilith had carved into his face, which came with his new identity. There's of course a cruel irony in the fact that Lilith, one of the very first vault hunters Jack and Angel had manipulated into opening the vaults, would be the one to scar him. She never knew it at the time, never understood the weight of that moment, but her mark branded more than just his face. It branded the birth of Handsome Jack. It would come to be the literal death of his former, weaker, more timid version, everyone referred to as John. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we gotta remember, Jack's original goal had been to harness the Destroyer itself to twist the Abomination into a weapon that could purge the planet and pave the way for his order. Instead, the Vault Hunters in Borderlands 1 killed it, leaving Jack with nothing but its remains. He would come to manage to salvage the creature's eye, already planning, however, to repurpose even its corpse into Hyperion's arsenal. At around the same time, almost out of a cruel convenience, Jack would be reassigned within Hyperion, placed in charge of overseeing the construction of a newly commissioned orbital space station above Pandora. This space station, or moon base, would come to be known as Helios. By the time Jack landed on it, it was far from finished, but at least it was still functional. And it was clear to Jack that Helios was meant to be a symbol of Hyperion's expanding influence. It was almost as if the company's own expansion and even Jack's reassignment to being in place of Helios, it could have very well just been a move to get him out of the way by Tassiter and all of the other higher-ups. However, from Jack's perspective, the reassignment could have almost felt like vindication. He had gambled everything on Pandora being more than a wasteland, and now Hyperion was planting a station in orbit above the very world he had staked his hunch on. To him, it could have looked like validation, proof that the company's expansion was inseparable from his own growing importance, maybe even the first sign that he had been right all along. But the truth was far less flattering. Jack hadn't been elevated, he had been contained. Helios was not given to him as a platform for power, but as a post of observation. Tassiter made it explicit. Jack was there to supervise construction and monitor Pandora, not to take any action, not to lead or shape any meaningful events. To the president of Hyperion, he was still nothing more than an unremarkable subordinate, a cog with ambition but no authority. And perhaps that would have stayed that way had it not been for the unforeseen attack by Dahl's rogue Lost Legion, which was by all accounts a properly trained and well-equipped militarized branch unleashed upon a space station with no adequate defenses or countermeasures to properly defend itself. Where Jack's childhood and complicated relationship with love and hate, and how sirens and bandits fit into that, his role within the events of the pre-sequel would be the foundation of his quest for military expansion, no matter the cost, even if that means sacrificing innocent people to secure, as he sees it, the greater good. I want to take the moment to thank the channel patrons and members that help keep these uploads consistently coming out. Konkin, Daniel Homan, Mr. Naughty Priest, John Cooper, Ryan Smith, Ruben Grijalva Jr., and Seagood. Big, massive thank you to each and every single one of you. The support truly means a lot. And for the rest of you, if you want some extra content, some early access behind the scenes, or even a podcast where things are a little bit more laid back, I pull the curtain back and you get an idea of the basic foundation of these videos, or the much longer ones that I tend to put out every other month, then consider joining the Patreon or channel memberships here. Of course, they're not mandatory. The content is going to consistently come out the way that it does now. It's more of the extra mile, the special thank you to show direct appreciation for the quality of work that I put out, as well as some extra content in return. Like always, links are down in the pinned comment. Feel free to check it out, but thank you either way.